All right, so get this.
Okay.
Picture yourself. You're thrown into the whirlwind of London Metal Exchange Week.
Right.
Suits, deals, whispers of fortunes being made.
Lots of money flying around.
But here's the kicker. 5 Argentine provincial governors,
Cookies.
each representing a different political party, are right there in the thick of it,
Interesting.
singing the praises of a new law called RIGI.
Yeah, I've heard about this RIGI thing. What is it all about?
You've been curious about this,
I'm trying.
how this new legal framework is shaking things up in Argentina's mining sector.
Big mining country, right?
So we're diving deep
Okay. Do it.
into RIGI,
All right.
specifically how it impacts the mining sector in
Yeah.
Argentina.
It's fascinating how these governors are putting aside their political differences.
Yeah.
See, they all had to get RIGI, which stands for Régimen de Inversión para la Generación de Exportaciones.
Catchy.
It is a mouthful.
Yeah.
Ratified in their own legislatures,
Wow.
showing just how united they are on this.
So they're really behind this.
Oh, yeah. They're betting big that this is the key to unlocking massive foreign investment.
Yes.
Huge, especially in lithium and copper projects.
And you know what that means in today's market?
Lithium,
You're
especially
talking electric vehicles,
electric vehicles, yeah.
renewable energy infrastructure.
Batteries, yeah.
Everyone wants a piece of what Argentina's got.
For sure.
Yeah.
The resources are definitely there.
But let's unpack this RGI thing a bit.
Okay.
It's one thing to say it attracts investment, but how exactly does it sweeten the deal for these mining giants?
Well, imagine yourself as a CEO and you're hearing this sales pitch.
Okay.
Tax breaks.
Okay.
Streamlined regulations that cut through the usual red tape.
Yeah.
And guarantees on currency exchange to minimize risk.
Right.
Argentina's laying out the red carpet,
Wow.
making it incredibly tempting to pour billions into these large-scale mining projects.
So on the surface,
Yeah.
it's a win-win.
It
Right?
seems like it will.
Argentina gets the investment it desperately needs,
Right.
and these international corporations get access to a treasure trove of resources.
Yeah, a lot of resources there.
But you know, we always say,
What's that?
if it seems too good to be true.
Usually is.
Right.
What's the catch?
There's always another side to the story.
Always.
And in this case,
Yeah.
it's coming from NGOs like Fundar.
Right. I've heard of them. What are they saying?
They're raising serious concerns about RGI's environmental safeguards.
Interesting.
They argue that these safeguards, as they stand,
Yeah.
simply aren't enough to protect Argentina's environment
Okay.
from the potential damage
Right.
these mega mining projects could inflict.
I see what they're getting at.
Now, you've been following Fundar's work closely.
I have.
What specifically are they most concerned about?
So they're especially worried about the Puna ecosystem.
Which is?
It's this high-altitude desert,
Right.
rich in biodiversity, but incredibly vulnerable. It's very fragile, and they're worried about contamination, particularly water contamination from mining activities.
Makes sense.
Imagine the impact on this delicate, fragile environment.
Yeah.
And that's not even touching on the potential displacement of indigenous communities
Right.
who have been stewards of this land for generations.
Right.
Their concerns highlight a tension that often arises with these kinds of projects.
It's that classic dilemma,
It is.
balancing short-term economic gains with long-term sustainability.
Exactly. The long term is what we need to focus on.
But as you mentioned, it's not just about the environment in this case, is it?
No, it's not just the environment.
There's a whole social dimension that we can't ignore.
The people, absolutely.
Right.
Some argue that REI, as it stands now,
Yeah.
could actually exacerbate existing inequalities.
That's a good point.
This makes you question who really benefits from these mining projects.
Right. Who is benefiting?
Is the wealth being distributed fairly? And are the voices of those most affected, particularly those indigenous communities, being heard in this whole process?
Right. Are they being consulted?
Yeah. Are they at the table?
And that leads us to the investor's perspective.
Okay.
They're looking at the potential profits,
Right.
of course,
But
also the risks involved.
Right. It's always a balance. It's a big concern for investors.
Right, because what happens if the political winds shift in Argentina?
Exactly.
Will a new administration honor the promises made under Grishier?
Right.
Or will they just tear it up and start over?
It's a gamble, for sure.
It is.
Imagine pouring billions of dollars into a project only to have the rug pulled out from under you a few years down the line
Right.
because of political maneuvering.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough to make even the most seasoned investor hesitate.
So it's a high-stakes game of chess.
It is.
Investors trying to predict Argentina's political future.
Right.
weighing those predictions against the potential for enormous profits.
Huge potential profits.
Huh. It sounds like Rigi has introduced a whole new level of complexity for these investors.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a lot to consider. Think of it this way. On one hand, you have the allure of Argentina's vast lithium and copper reserves.
Right.
I mean, these are the metals of the future, essential for everything,
They are.
from electric car batteries to renewable energy infrastructure.
Right.
If Argentina plays its cards right, they could become a dominant player
Yeah.
in the global supply chain
Yeah.
for these critical resources.
It's easy to see why the current administration is so gung-ho about Rigi.
Oh, yeah.
They're envisioning a surge in foreign investment.
Jobs.
Thousands of new jobs.
There's a guy.
A revitalized economy.
Booming.
But on the other hand,
Yeah.
you have those very real risks
There are definitely risks.
that we've been discussing.
Environmental damage,
Environmental damage.
social unrest, political instability.
Right.
If Rigi's environmental safeguards prove inadequate,
Yeah.
or if a future government backpedals on the promises made to investors, the consequences could be devastating.
We've seen this play out before in other parts of the world.
We have.
Countries rush headlong into these large-scale resource extraction projects,
Yep.
blinded by the promise of quick profits,
Right.
only to find themselves grappling with a whole host of unintended consequences down the road.
Exactly. And that's why this concept of sustainable development is so crucial.
Okay.
It's not just about protecting the environment for the sake of the environment.
Right.
It's about recognizing that environmental health, social equity, and economic prosperity,
Yeah,
they're all interconnected.
they are.
You can't have one without the others.
So how do we measure the success of a project like this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And there's no simple answer.
Right.
But here's something to consider.
Okay.
True sustainability means taking a long-term perspective.
Okay.
It means asking ourselves not just what will this project do for us today, but what kind of legacy will it leave for our children and grandchildren.
It's about balancing the needs of the present
Yes,
with the well-being of future generations.
precisely. And that requires a level of transparency and accountability that has often been lacking in these kinds of large-scale development projects.
Okay.
We need to ask the tough questions.
Like what?
Are these mining contracts being negotiated fairly?
Okay.
Are local communities being meaningfully consulted?
Right.
And are there robust mechanisms in place to hold corporations accountable for their environmental and social impacts?
These are critical questions that need to be addressed.
They are.
Not just in Argentina, but everywhere we see this tension between resource extraction and sustainable development playing out. It's like we're seeing this pivotal moment,
Yeah.
not just for Argentina,
Right.
but for other countries in similar situations.
Absolutely.
Countries dealing with this new wave of resource demand,
Yeah, everyone wants lithium.
especially those still dealing with the legacy of colonialism
Right.
and how that's impacted their relationship with resource extraction.
It's a big factor.
It adds another layer to all of this.
For sure. This is about way more than just one country or one mining project.
Right. It's a global issue.
It really is. It's like we're looking at global trends
Right.
and the challenges we're all facing.
Yeah, the world's hungry for these resources.
It is. How do we balance this need for things like lithium and copper?
Which we need.
Yeah, we need them. But we also need to protect the planet.
Of course. And we need to make sure that the future is fair.
For everyone, right? A just and equitable future for all.
It makes you wonder what progress even means anymore.
That's the question, isn't it?
Are we just measuring it by economic growth?
Is it just about the bottom line?
Or are we finally starting to prioritize social and environmental well-being
Those are crucial factors.
as important as profit?
Exactly. They have to be part of the equation.
This has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has been interesting.
You've given us a lot to think about.
A lot of complexity.
To our listener, hopefully you're leaving with a deeper understanding
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here.
of this complex situation with Argentine mining and a Rigi regime.
It's economics, it's politics, it's sustainability.
It's all connected.
Absolutely. And the world's changing fast. These conversations about resource management,
Yeah.
environmental protection, social responsibility,
They're more important than ever.
they are. So keep asking the tough questions.
Right.
Keep learning.
Stay informed.
Exactly. Because knowledge is power.
Here's one final thought for you to ponder.
Okay.
What if the true wealth buried beneath Argentina's soil
Yeah.
isn't lithium or copper,
Okay.
but the potential to pioneer a new model of development,
Interesting.
one that prioritizes people and the planet alongside profit?
That's the dream.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, knowledge is power.
See you next time.